Alright. Looks like someone's here. Gonna give it a minute for anybody else who wants to see this to trickle in. But welcome. And drop a message in chat so I know you can hear me, if you can hear me. We'll get started when I'm certain that I'm actually streaming and that someone's watching. It's nice to know someone's watching. There's a lot of cool stuff to go over. Today, I'm going to look at the whole month of June and discuss a little bit of holder data, talk about where we're at today, and look at some trends with whales and with a variety of different sizes of accounts and things like that. So bear with me a minute while I tell everybody to join, and we'll get started. Someone made slow mode enabled on the Hoge launch. That's stupid. Let's go to Discord. So yeah, if you're watching this chat, say something. Tell me that you're here. Feed me. Alright, so first of all, I guess every time I do this I like to start by just looking at the most recent data, so the most up-to-date daily data. So right now it's 10:49 p.m., 8/1/2021. I was going to try and do this earlier in the weekend, but as you'll see in a second, I'm dealing with a ton of data now. I have all of June pulled together, all of June with a caveat that I'll show you in a second. But so what are we looking at here? What we're looking at here is a spreadsheet that is generated from a script that I run. I've talked about this a few times, but we've got this script that goes through each of the different chains and basically pulls JSON representation of all the holders from each chain. We have 4 chains: XDAI, fucking Ethereum, BSC, and Phantom, Binance Smart Chain and Phantom. And I pull data from each of those chains and create something like what you're seeing right now. With those individual spreadsheets, combine those together using a different script to make a spreadsheet that I'm going to show you in a second. But first we'll look at the current data as it stands right now. So we've got address, balance, type, title, and chain. So type and title are mostly to do with the Ethereum chain, but the ETHplorer API provides this kind of data. So first thing I like to do is take a look at the titles and see if there's anything new or interesting in here. So sometimes we see things like new exchanges or labeled holders in this set. So let's do that real quick. So we'll go to data. We will add a standard filter. We're using LibreOffice instead of Excel. I don't have Excel because I'm cheap. Let's take a look at what we got. So we're going to say where our condition is not empty. Oops, that didn't work. Let's try that again. We're going to filter where our condition is, that's interesting, equal to not empty, I guess. Oh shit. Oh, I haven't done this in a while, as you can see. One more time. Data, more filter, standard filter. We're not looking for holders. Not holder. Okay, so here are our current set of titled addresses here. dump the link into the Telegram again. I'm talking to myself again. Hopefully someone watches this video later for posterity's sake. So we've got ENS, the burn address. We've got whitebit, PDO. PDO is big one. That's their processing tool. We have Blacksea, another exchange, Gate.io, Healthcare. We've talked about that in previous videos. You can go look at what that looks like. But Healthcare is a labeled user, or a labeled holder. We have Vitalik Buterin, who remains at 9 Hoge, which is good. He, for some reason, has 9. We have HitBTC, which is a exchange that, as far as I can tell, someone just transferred some Hoge to it and it accepted it, and they have 9 hundredths of 1 Hoge. Okay, so let's undo that filter and take a look at something else. Let's do, how do I remove filter? Standard. Oh, I need to choose my thing here. Data. Can I control Z? There we go. Alright, so back to our spreadsheet here. What I want to do now is just take a look at the relative distribution of each chain. So this is going to be a little introduction to the formulas that I use in the spreadsheet I'm going to show you in a bit. But basically the formulas that I mostly use to process these things are COUNTIF, COUNTIFs, which is plural, average ifs, and SUM and SUMIFs. SUMIF and SUMIFs. So let's take a look first at the number of holders with over 100,000 Hoge. So we will use 100,000 as our dust value here. So number of holders with over 100,000 Hoge on each chain. So to do that, we'll say equals count ifs. Our array is our balance. Go up here. So our first condition is that among that array, we are over greater than or equal to 100,000. So here's the total number, the count of holders with greater than or equal to 100,000. And then our second condition will be here. Let's see. We'll say E2. And then we'll say that that array needs to be Binance Smart Chain. Okay, so this is the number of holders on the Binance Smart Chain. Now we can dope this up a little bit by saying Binance Smart Chain, Phantom Chain, XDAI, and Ethereum. And we can point this value to Binance Smart Chain here. Let me scroll in a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing. So again, we've got Binance Smart Chain, Phantom Chain, XDAI, Ethereum. This is the count of holders with greater than or equal to 100,000 Hoge in their wallet, and who are holding on the Binance Smart Chain. Alright, so what we can do now is bind our array here. So this won't move. So now if I drag this down, so now we have, oops, I need to do that here as well. Drag that down. Okay, so now we have the number of holders on each chain with over 100,000 Hoge. We could add, we could do 10,000, we could do 1,000, do 100, and we could do 1. And then what we could do is take these values. We need to bind the this needs to stay fixed. This needs to stay fixed. Fixed and fixed. So what I'm doing is I'm making it so that Ethereum, XDAI, Phantom Chain, and BSC are fixed, and we're always referencing that cell in these. So what I can do here is replace 100,000. I can use an ampersand and click 100,000 here. So now when I drag this across, I'm picking up each of these values, and you can see that if I click here, the red box is around 100. So I can do the same thing here. And oops. Let's do this one at a time, I guess. Do the same thing here. 1,000, and the same thing here. Okay, so now if I drag this over, I get for each dust threshold. So this is an interesting thing we can do. So what we can do is we can graph this. Let's see. Let's do, well, let's do all 3 first, and then we'll do, or all 4 first, and then we'll just do the 3. So we can change column B to, let's call this chain. Try that again. Fuck it, just delete that. Alright, so here are our distribution of holders on each chain that have over 100,000. We can do the same thing for 10,000, and so on. What I'd rather do is take a look here at just these chains. Well, fuck it. You understand what we could do here. We could look at a graph for each of these, but you can kind of see from the numbers. We can look at percentages. That might be more useful. So let's take a look at, let's just grab this line here, this line here, and let's say we want to know, the sum of all of these. So this is the total number of holders with greater than or equal to 100,000 Hoge. Drag that across. This is for each of these denominations. Let's do a little hat for these. So these, oops, just for these here. So these are the sums here. Okay, so now what we can do is we can go equal to this divided by this times 100. So this is the percentage of this that each of these represents. We can do $sign here and here. Freeze that and drag that down. So now we can see, make sure we got that right. That looks good. Okay. So now we can see the percentage of each. So about 1% of holders on BSC, and clearly a much higher percentage are on the other chains. This should have been done differently. This needs to be just the number. There we go. So now we can let's try to do that, and then do There we go. Okay. So as you can see, among all dust threshold classes, we have about 98% of holders on Ethereum. Makes sense. Most holders would be on Ethereum. Now, something else we can do, maybe more interesting, is see how this percentage of holders compares to the percentage of the total Hoge on each of those chains among holders at each dust class, right? So 100,000 greater than or equal to 100,000, greater than or equal to 10,000, and so on. So let's do that. So we'll grab these, put them down here again. Grab these, put them here again. Okay, so this first set here will be the holder count. Do that in green, I guess. And then the second set here will be the, let's see, count, and then Hoge, sum, holder count. Makes more sense. Okay, so pressing on, we'll knock this out real quick, and then we'll move over to the time series stuff. We're already 17 minutes into this stream. Haven't even gotten there yet. Hold on, it'll get more interesting. Okay, cool. So let's do, so before we did count ifs, plural, count ifs. So now we can do sum ifs. So once again, we'll do same range here. And in this case, we're going to say sum ifs. That range is, again, greater than or equal to ampersand 100,000. What have we done wrong here? Sum ifs greater than or equal to and 100,000. Oh, it wants two ranges. Okay, so that's sum ifs that, and then we'll say and this range E2 to E whatever the fuck is equal to Binance Smart Chain. God damn you. What have I done wrong? Okay. Sum ifs this is greater than or equal to that, and this, that didn't work, did it? How about that? Ooh, it did not work. Well, now we're in a pickle. Oh, thanks, Jovan. I'm glad you can hear me. Oh, fuck. Let's see. So, let's just Google. This is when we start Googling. Sum ifs, LibreOffice. Let's take a look. Sum ifs. We need. Here we go. Okay, so C2. C6. Oh, okay. Okay. So we need to. Okay. Screwed this up. So this needs to be this range first. We'll get there. There we go. Okay. So what we have here, what I've done, okay, make sense of this. So we have sum ifs, which is going to do the sum of the first range. So the first range we gave it was our range of wallets, range of Hoge held in each wallet. And then we're going to say the next term is the same range. This is a conditional, so the first if is that range, that the sum if the value is greater than or equal to, and we use 100,000, so that's what this 5779 is. And the second conditional is that this range is equal to BSC. So this value is BSC, this range is this range. Okay, a little confusing, but I think we can get there. So let's see what we broke here. So we need this value, pink value, to be this. This needs to be locked there. Okay. That looks good. So this needs to be moved up to there. There we go. So this, 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 and I'm going to drag this to the right, so we just need the number here. And then, let's see, greater than or equal to that, and then this number needs to be fixed. No, needs to be fixed at A. Right? Christ. Alright. Let's try this again. Hold tight, everyone. So what we can do is we can just move these bad boys up and cheat. This moves our range for us. But generally I prefer not to do that because we want to pull this to the right, and that's going to fuck that all up. But we can cheat for now. Cheating. Looks good. And here. That looks good. So now this is going to break everything. Why'd that break everything? The reason I broke everything is because I don't have these letters bound here. So B2. So this range stays fixed actually the whole time. So that can stay like that. Okay, what's wrong? Oh, we need to do both of them. So let's do that here. So let's do B2. I know this is boring right now. It will get more interesting. Okay, oops. Need our B there. Okay. So that looks better, I think. Okay, that looks good. So X die, or this range, the E range needs to stay the same too. So we'll go up here, lock that range, and pull that down. Okay, so now we're set up. We can grab these, pull them to the right, and 100,000. That should be right here. Let's see. Something is, aha. This value needs to be that. So I missed my A here. This thing needs to stay, just stay A. Oops. Now if I pull this down, it should stay the same. And now if I pull this across, there we go. Okay. So now what we see is at each dust threshold, so again 100,000, we're considering that 100,000 or greater, or a wallet with less than 100,000 is considered dust at this range, 10,000, and then down to 1 here. So this is the total sum of Hoge at each of those thresholds. So what we can see here is a little more interesting. Now what's going to be extra interesting is when we look at the percentage. So let's do a sum here. We can drag this guy straight across. So this is a sum of all of the Hoge and all of the private wallets for all of the holders that have more than one Hoge. So this is basically like the bottom of the barrel. This should encompass mostly everyone who's engaged in the project in any capacity. So let's go ahead and add our little hat and floor. Okay, so now what we can do, same thing we did before. We can say equals to this divided by this. We can lock the number and multiply that by 100. Bring that down. So this is even more telling perhaps. So what are we seeing here? What we're seeing here is that although 98% of the users are on the Ethereum chain, 99% of the money is on the Ethereum chain. So and you know why all this is bad? Because we use a burn address. So let's get rid of that. So let's shift all these down to 3. Then we'll just grab this handle, scoot it up, and we get errors. This is truly tedium. Let's see, E3. There we go. Okay. So bring that down and across. P3. E3. Keep that how it was. So this is fine. This is just the count of holders. If we have one extra in there, it's really not a big deal. But we want to make sure we get the Hoge held correct, because including the burn address in that would be kind of stupid. So let's take a look, make sure we have this right. Yeah, okay, so now we've excluded the burn address. So, okay, so let's look at one more time just to recap what we've done so far. Oops. Okay, so we have still 99% of the Hoge is held on the Ethereum chain, and 98% is Hoge of users are on the Ethereum chain. It's maybe not surprising, but yeah, the point is the Ethereum chain is super vastly utilized more than any other chains. However, we're looking at one data point here. We're looking at only 10 o'clock tonight. It's now 11:15. We're looking at 10 o'clock tonight, what that looked like. Now what we can do now is turn to a different spreadsheet and take a look at the whole month of June. So how did this number change? How did this relative utilization of each of these chains change throughout the month? We're going to look at that and more right now. So, as I described at the beginning of this thing, what this spreadsheet is, if we look up here, we've got addresses, type, title, chain, and then we have so this is each wallet, each private address, each private wallet. So this is not including users that are holding on an exchange, but any private wallet. We've got the total number of Hoge in that wallet at each hour, every single hour, every day, beginning on July 7th at 1 o'clock a.m. and ending on July 31st at 9 o'clock p.m. So this is when I started working on this, was last night at 9 o'clock. So I've done a lot of work on this one. I think this should go a lot smoother than that previous display. But so what are we looking at here? So we've got, again, we see the burn address, we see the white bit exchange, we see all the same stuff we did in the previous spreadsheet, but we have going for each hour of each day. Now, when we do this, I have the script that I wrote that combines these set up to show us voids for places where there is a wallet that didn't exist at that hour that came into existence maybe later on. So you can see as I scroll over, you'll see these numbers start to fill in. So these are the accounts that joined the project. You can see it was void before. Then they entered with 7.3 million Hoge. They entered, in this case, at 5 o'clock a.m. on July 30th. So that's what you're seeing here. That's what this void means. You're going to see that in a second, how I kind of pull that out. So what I've done so far, and you can see some data down here, and I want to graph this stuff. What we're going to be doing now is making a bunch of graphs and looking at this stuff a little more closely. But basically what you're seeing is each hour in the date-time format, so we can graph it. And then what I've done is I pulled out greater than or equal to. So this is, we can look at the formula here. So now we're doing a count if. We're counting all of the addresses that hold greater than or equal to the first value here. So in this case, the first thing I want to look at is the change in the whale address count over time. So I'm considering a whale address to be one that has over 100 million, greater than or equal to 100 million Hoge in its wallet. And I've graphed that, and I'll show you that graph in a second. But ultimately, we can look at how, we have this theory that people say, oh, we've killed a whale's been killed. Well, I think we can be a little bit more quantitative about that and say, okay, so whales have been killed, how many have re-entered? And are we seeing a trend overall where we're losing whales from the project? And that's what we're hoping to see. We want to see the distribution of these coins be flattened and moved more toward the middle. And I think you'll see in a second that there's evidence that definitely points to that. So that's the first row, over 100,000. So how many holders hold over 100 million at 1 o'clock a.m. of this date? I can show you what that looks like conceptually if you'd like to see that. So this is a folder that shows all of those spreadsheets. You can see I have Hoge address and then the date timestamp, and you can see in this list, I have hundreds of these things. This runs on a laptop that's in the room with me that it's never turns off, and it pulls these things every hour. So this is just what I have on this desktop that I'm working from now that I've copied over. So this just represents the a sample of those spreadsheets. But I have 1.2 thousand spreadsheets on this laptop in here, and it's running every hour. So I just pulled another one at 11 o'clock. This is big data stuff. There's a lot of data here. So what we can do with that is do the time series we're going to see in a second. So I've done one for the whale accounts. We'll look at that last. I want to kind of bury the lead on that one, but let's take a look at the chains again. So we just looked at the previous spreadsheet. We said how many holders are on each chain relative to the chain relative to each other. So what I've done here is I've just grabbed, basically what this is agnostic to dust accounts, so not concerned with dust accounts. How is the number of these users changed on each chain? And then if we're considering a dust account to be 100,000, we can look at that too. So let's do that. The first thing we'll do is we'll grab. So what I've done here, basically to make a graph in LibreOffice, we need to transpose this. So we can't make a graph just like this, and you'll see in a second I've already done that partially. But let's take a look here. So what we're seeing here, just to clarify, as a matter of fact, let's go to the top here. Let's lock this first row. I think if I right click, maybe freeze rows and columns. There we go. All right, so what do we have here? We have we're still following this hourly. Each of these columns still represents this hourly trend, right? So even though they're kind of broken up and they look a little sporadic. I want you to keep in mind that the first row, even down here, still respects this format. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab these. We'll look at the not voids first. So let's look at the Ethereum chain first. Actually, let's look at them all together first, and then we'll take a look just at the Ethereum chain, or each chain independent. So what I have over here is that transposition. So basically, if you paste special and do a transpose, this is the date timestamps, and this is some data that I've already prepared. So what we're seeing here is the wallets with a count of over 100 million, so that the number of wallets with over 100 million Hoge per hour, number of wallets with over 100,000 Hoge per hour, 10,000, 1,000, and so on. So we've just transposed those fields next to this date. That allows us to graph it. Over here, I have the average. So this is an interesting number that I think we'll have a cool graph from. So basically what we're seeing here is the average amount of Hoge held among wallets with over 100,000 Hoge. I haven't graphed that yet. We'll look at that in a second, but I think that'll be a cool one. Let's do a transposition here. We'll do a paste special. And you already see I have transpose given here. Okay, so now we actually lost our labels. That's because when you do a transpose, actually let's go back. Let's see if we do a paste special again here, and we add text, maybe that'll work. Okay, cool. So here we have Ethereum chain, Binance chain, Phantom chain, and XDAI. So again, this is the dust account as agnostic. So you see this is a pretty big number. I think you'll see in a second when we look at the dust accounts that we actually have far less than 64,000 Ethereum chain holders. But if you don't consider this dust account thing as an issue, then we can still make some use of this. So let's go over here. Let's grab our date time. Oops, went too far. Right here. So we'll take this field just because I'm lazy, and we'll dump it right here. Alright, so here's our date timestamp. So let's make a graph of this. We're going to use a scatter chart with lines only. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So this is kind of predictable, but what you're seeing is each chain and the number of holders holding on that chain. Now you can see that these lines all seem to trend upward. We can expect that because we're not looking at dust accounts here. I'm not going to do too much with this chart because it's deceiving, because we need to have dust accounts as a consideration. So let's go back up, or sorry, go back over and pull our set that excludes the dust accounts. So again, what we just looked at was this set of fields here. So basically, where this was not void, right? So if it was not void, then it was an account that held any Hoge, and we did a count of those that were not void and that were on the chain that was given on the left. Okay, so now let's take a look at the holders over 100,000, over than or equal to 100,000K, right? So what we can do, and we're not going to look at this change. This is something I was looking at last night. I had an idea that this would be something cool, but I don't feel like thinking that hard. Let's just look at this. This will be cool enough. So let's grab these. And again, we're going to transpose them. So hopefully you guys can get a little bit out of this just from this is how you do this shit in Excel perspective. All the stuff that I'm doing here carries over to Excel. Their formatting for their formulas is a little bit different. But if you just Google, count ifs, sum ifs, and so on, you'll get the same sort of thing. So let's do a paste special. We're going to transpose again using text and numbers. You may not be able to see this on screen, but these boxes are the types of things we're transposing, and then the options we tell it to transpose. Okay, so once again, now we have each chain. Now what we're looking at here is the number of holders on each chain at each of these hours. The hours are still the same. Let's paste that in here. Okay, so at each of these hours, this is the count of holders. Let's just put a little note here, so greater than 100,000. And not void. Right, so it's a count of holders with greater than 100,000 on each chain at each hour. Now this one, I think, should be a little bit more interesting. Now, we're going to do this the first time for all the chains. I anticipate that it's going to look pretty illegible, just like the other one did, but bear with me, and I think we can make this work. It's thinking here. I need to save this document, or it's going to probably fuck me. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we'll save real quick. So now what do we see? Let's let this finish saving. So just so you guys know, if you're watching this, if you look at the video, the recording of this video at the end, I'll have the this document that we're creating. It's a Google Drive link in the notes, or in the, I guess, whatever, the notes section in YouTube. So you can pull this down and do whatever you'd like with it and play with it if you'd like to. But hopefully we can answer all these questions, or the questions that I would have, sort of in this video. So now these lines are looking a little bit different now, very slightly. You can see obviously the scale has changed. So we're hovering around the 45,000 holder count mark, and you can see that there's a slight downward trajectory relative to this slight upward trajectory. And again, the reason that is because if we don't look at the dust accounts, there's no real good way that this number can go down. It does go down sometimes, but it would require that a person were to sell from their private wallet, and in such a way that they were able to sell 100% when they made that sale, or transfer 100% out. To sell 100% is very tricky. You'd have to become very lucky in that your slippage could be set to 0. That slippage accounts for the volatility in the exchange between the two denominations, or the two monetary systems, and having a 0 slippage is very, very rare. You can kind of game Uniswap sometimes and make that happen, but it doesn't happen often. So that would be the circumstance where this first number could go down. Otherwise, it's always going to tick up. Now, I've griped about this before, but if we look at Hoge report, you can see this holder number here. This number is representative of this first table. So this number is just the ETHPLOR API's count of holders that hold any Hoge, basically that aren't void up there. Now, if they hold one Hoge, and there are a lot of them that hold one Hoge, as we'll see in a second, you could say that a person holding one Hoge, that's more than likely just dust, so money that's in that account, or Hoge that's in that account, because their slippage was set in such a way that they couldn't sell it all at once, sell down to 0. It's a little technical, but basically what I'm trying to say here is this Hoge.report number is valid for what they're trying to do, but it's not really the complete picture. And that's what I'm trying to provide here. So you're probably never going to see this number go down. We have seen it go down once or twice. This number as well in Etherscan. Let's see, Etherscan Hoge. Let's try that. Here we go. So if we go to the holder panel here, I think somewhere on this page, there's a thing that shows the count of holders, and there's a little arrow that shows if that's going up or down. Maybe they're on a different website, but basically there's a website out there that shows that number going up or down, and it does go down sometimes. It's very rare, and the circumstance has to be what I've just described, where you were able to sell out or transfer out without being affected by slippage. Very rare thing. But someone raised the alarm that Etherscan was showing the number of holders going down. They said, well, why are the holders going down? It seems like And here you can see 0%. This is the percent change in the previous day. You can actually see that if we do an inspection here. It says, you can kind of see, it's kind of funny. They add a little text tag here that you can't see on the page, but titled "No change in token holders from previous day." So basically what they're saying is that there's been no change in the count of token holders since midnight of the previous day. And there's another stream I have. If you go back and look at my old streams, I think like Data Chat 3 or something, I talked about how they're getting this number, and this is not correct. There has been a change in holders over the previous day. We could see that if we will see that when we look at the data in a second, but basically they're only looking at the Ethereum chain. We have 4 chains. If you see this number change, if you see this number here, the 64,742, that only represents the holders, the private holders on the Ethereum chain, and the change in those that holder count among those on the Ethereum chain. And unfortunately, Hoge report is pulling from the same data set, so you're not seeing this holder number. Should be a lot higher actually, because we have those other chains, and we'll see that in a second. Okay, back on topic. So let's take a look. Well, we're going to ignore this one because of what I've described, right? So we're not seeing dust accounts accounted for here, and we're going to try to account for them. We're going to say that 100,000 is our threshold for dust accounts. And let's take a look at how our holder count changed on each chain. So first we'll do Ethereum. Look at a scatter plot of that. There we go. Now that's stark, right? So if we were to look over here, so this is again our not void column. This is what you would be seeing. This is basically a proxy for what Hoge report shows. If you were to just look at that, I think it's thinking maybe. This can take some time. We are making a giant spreadsheet here. There it goes. Okay, so if you were to look at just what was on Hoge report and Etherscan, you would see that the Ethereum holders only went up, right? So, and they did, ultimately. Something happened here where they managed to sell. A bunch of people managed to sell out at once or transfer out at once. But overall, that total number of people that had some amount of Hoge on their Ethereum chain in their wallet did increase, but the number of people that had over 100,000 on that chain pretty dramatically decreased. And we'll look at that and see if we should be alarmed by that in a second. I will spoil it and say we should not, if I remember right. If I remember how I looked at this before, we should not. So can we? We'll just hide this one somewhere because it's false. Okay, so this is our greater than or equal to 100,000 for Ethereum. Let's take a look at the other ones. Graph all of those. Let's do this. This is easier. All right, so that's our date, and we'll do BSC. Here's our scatter plot, line only. Aha! Now, that's interesting. Let's take a look at Phantom. This is always kind of silly, just because oops. The formatting was wrong there. Let's try that again. We'll throw in our scatter plot again, line only. So here you can see Phantom Chain. So somebody's using Phantom Chain. At least 7 people hold over 100,000 on Phantom Chain. You can see how that rose and then dropped back off again. Phantom Chain's bizarre, but people are using it for some reason. So, and now let's finally do that last to XDAI, and I think you'll see a similar kind of Yeah, so here's what happened with xDie. But, you know, weird patterns, but they don't really matter in the context of what we're trying to accomplish, because it only represents a total of 12 people at most, so, or 13 people at the most, so. Anyway, okay, so now we've made all those. So now let's take a look at what do we see in these graphs? So we see that the number has decreased on the Ethereum chain and increased on BSC. Now what does that mean to us? Let's go back to our raw data, and let's do a sum here. So what I want to know is among holders with greater than or equal to 100,000, the sum here, and the sum at the very beginning up here. And then we're going to subtract them, and it looks like we have lost 255 holders. Let's see, make sure I got this correct here. So we have let's see, XB3 to the fuck XB3 to XE3. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so oh, it's saving. Oops. Okay. So yeah, so at the end of the oh no. I got that backwards. So we've actually gained. All right, so this needs to be. So this is, let's see, start and so start of the month we had 45,031. End of the month, you can see that here. So this is this row, the end. So let's do an equals this minus this. We gained 255. Difference. So we gained 255 users across all the chains, at least among those that had over 100,000. Now, if we go back over here, we can do the same thing for count over. Sorry, we can do this for the same thing for not void. So we can say greater than or equal to 100,000, and we can say not void, or any Hoge. So here we'll do equals sum at the start would be well, let's just do this so it's not void. So it's WV3 to this WY3. So that's the start. The end is this. And then we'll do equal to end minus start, and 894. So this is something that I really want to make clear, right? So what we're seeing here is basically the difference between what's happening in these two tables, or these two graphs here, and it's really the difference between the functional use of the Hoge.report holder count and what a more honest, I guess, approach would be. So if we're considering a dust account to be 100,000, then we've only gained 255 people. So if we consider, that all holders, if we pretend that all holders are actively engaged in the project, no matter if they have a fraction of one Hoge, then we would say that we've gained 894. I prefer to say we've gained 255 in the last month. And in future iterations of this, when I do next month, which I intend to do, we'll use the same sort of format. So, okay, so that's that. So overall we've gained 255 holders. That's great. Unfortunately, those holders are here, right? So we lost. Well, we can do this. We can do this here. So so we'll say start. Let's say BSC. Ethereum. XDAI. And Phantom. And then BSC. Void. Ethereum. Not void. XDAI. Not void. And Phantom. Not void. Okay, so now what I want to see is among each chain. So the way this will work is we'll do equal to, so this was going to be BSC, so we'll look at XC3. Oops. So 106 on the BSC chain at the beginning of this month. $527 at the end. We'll do the same for Ethereum. That was XD3. Wait, B3. XB3. XDAI. XE3. Phantom. XD3. Oops. That's equal XD3. Okay, so now we can do, this was Ethereum, this one, BSC, this one, Christ, I already did that. Ethereum, XDAI, that was this one, and this, of course, was Phantom here. So we've changed, we have zero, well, we'll just do equals to this, minus this. This is the change. So we lost 167 from Ethereum. We gained 421 BSC with over 100,000. So that's huge. You know, BSC is becoming more more utilized. That's really good, I think. That was the intention. That was the goal, was to expand this project across different chains. So cool. All right, so now let's look at the not voids. So we'll go back over here, and we're looking at BSC first, equals to WW3, World War III. Okay, BSC was that. Ethereum, WV3, XDAI, WY3, and Phantom, WX3. And then we'll go back over here and say not void on BSC was this. Ethereum was WV. WV. Okay, so now we can look at changing these. So in this case, this is why we have that much higher rise from the other set, right? Because BSC, when it's just all of the wallets, total number of wallets that hold BSC is it raised by 784, but other people sold. So that 500, we can actually look at that here. 529 people sold down to below 100,000. But ultimately, did I do that right? BSC. Sorry, so yeah, Ethereum raised by 115. Anyways, you understand what I'm trying to say. It didn't actually go up by 115 on Ethereum. So it's actually this minus this. So 282 people sold out of Ethereum down to beneath 100,000. Compared to the gain that we saw. Anyway, point is, this is a table here. Yeah, I just explained that cartel from hell. So okay, so the Hoge holder numbers are not going down. The Hoge holder numbers on the Ethereum chain are slightly going down. This is the table that I'm showing you here. So basically, let's look at this set here. So the Ethereum among holders, I'm disaggregating this even further. So among holders with greater than 100,000 Ethereum, 167 people did leave the project or sold out or transferred out. Some of this increase here could be these people transferring from the Ethereum chain onto the Binance Smart Chain. But the point is, 421 people joined the project or received Hoge on the Binance Smart Chain. So this is still Hoge. This is just wrapped Hoge on BSC. 421 people have over 100,000. 421 more people between the beginning of the month and the present day have over 100,000 Hoge on BSC than did at the start of the month. And 167 people on the Ethereum chain have sold out. Now, the reason you're seeing that number as a decrease on Etherscan or in the Hoge.report is because those both only pull from the Ethereum blockchain. You're only looking at those numbers. So the project is actually growing. It's just changing hands. It's moving to a different chain slowly, which is good. This is something that we want to happen. That's the reason that we made the chain in the first place. We want to give people options. And if things are cooling down on Ethereum, the bridge is doing exactly what its function is. That when things are cooling down on Ethereum, it's picking up that slack. And in this case, it's picking up that slack even more than the slack exists, right? So it's building the project beyond the loss that we're seeing in Ethereum. That's a really good thing. That doesn't happen in XDAI and Phantom. Nobody uses those chains. So and also what I was trying to point out earlier is the number that you're seeing as a decrease is here. So really the numbers aren't going down even if you were paying close attention to sure man, if you're paying close attention to Hoge.report or Etherscan and you're looking at it every day, even though some days you were seeing a decrease, and we can look at that. So I've actually graphed that down here. So let's take a look at this graph. So what this graph is showing you is for every hour on the hour the number of holders that have any Hoge on the Ethereum chain. So this is basically a proxy for if you were tracking this every hour, what was showing up on the Hoge.report. This is what you would see. You would see that the count increased, dropped off dramatically, started increasing again, but there's volatility throughout all that. And the way that API works, that you're seeing that number of increase or decrease, is it's only looking at the close of the previous day. Oh shit, my stream's all fucked up. Hang on. Hopefully I didn't do anything that you guys couldn't see. Anyways, yeah. So the API is only looking at the close of the previous day, the last hour, the last second of the previous day, and comparing the current time or the current holder count to that last hour. So if you saw that right then, if the day ended right here and you were looking at that number right here, you would see, holy shit, we lost 200 or 60 people or something like that. But ultimately what you weren't seeing is that the Binance Smart Chain was increasing at that time commensurate or more. But again, I think it's still not telling the whole story, because you need to be cognizant of these dust accounts. Let's take a look back at this other spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet from today's data at 10 o'clock p.m. Right now it's 11:53. So this is the hour of 10. The script that ran, or the spreadsheet that was pulled at 10 o'clock. So what I want to point out here, let's do a count if. Let's see. Let's just do a straight count if. So we're going to count all of the accounts here that have less than or equal to 1. Okay. So there's 8,380 accounts with less than or equal to 1 Hoge in them, out of 65,765. So 12% of all the holders on Etherscan, or 13% almost, of all the holders on Etherscan have less than or equal to 1 Hoge in them. This is why we need to be aware of these dust accounts. I use 100,000 because I think that's a good rough approximation of where somebody might, as of right now, how much money does 100,000 Hoge cost? It's like that'd be like $100 or something like that, somewhere around $100. I figure, if somebody threw $100 in this project, they would at least be somewhat aware of it still and paying attention, at least proximally to their investment. So I consider those to be like the threshold for people that, and even that's, a bad number to use. But the point is, people who have 1 Hoge or less than 1 Hoge probably aren't really engaging in this project. So that's why I kind of try and pull that out. So these graphs are showing the greater than or equal to 100,000. So these are just users that have greater than or equal to 100,000 Hoge in their wallets. Okay, so last thing. So we talked about all that. We looked at the different chains. Now what I want to do is talk about the theory that we're killing whales, right? So we have these big sales. The price seems to stabilize. And we say, okay, well, I guess we've killed a whale. Well, I made a little graph before we started this discussion that I hopefully can find. I think I've hidden it from myself. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, so this is a graph of what I would consider whales. So these are wallets that hold greater than or equal to 100 million Hoge, and how that number has changed over time. So you can see throughout the month, and again, the month here starts on the 7th. I had to make some changes to my script that makes it so that comparing dates or comparing hours, kind of the standardization happened on the 7th. But anyway, so starting on the 7th, you can see there's a huge drop in the number of wallets with over 100,000 Hoge. Now what I've done in here is I've pulled up the graph of the time range that we're looking at, sort of generally. I mean, this isn't a perfect representation, but it does start on the 7th and end on the 31st. So if we look at this and we kind of put this graph under this other graph, we can kind of get an idea of where some of this price action here may have come from, right? You can kind of see that there is some loose coupling, at least, to the number of whales and the price of the coin. And you can see that the people who became whales, or over 100 million holders right here, made money, right? So their holdings grew from 0.00000071 to 0.0001. So they gained like 30%, right? Something like that, 30% ish. On their investment already of over 100 million. So 100 million, what does that represent at 0.001 is fucking $10,000, I guess. So yeah, so they went from like they made like $3,000 off of just this swing here. So interesting to note. But the point is that the whales, I don't have enough information right now to say whether or not we're like over time actually killing whales. I want to look at this on a broader scale, look at multiple months together. Right now I can't do that, unfortunately, because again I've really changed the way the script works in the past month or so, and I think going forward we'll be able to have a much greater control over the granularity of this data. But I don't really want to go back and look at, because I was only recording Ethereum holders before, and I was kind of a noob at the Python API I'm using to do that, so I was not recording them correctly. And so anyway, that data I'm kind of trying to push to the side, continue going forward. But you can see the holder count kind of dropped and then kind of built back up. Now what's more interesting to me is if we look at total holders. Now let's do this, and then I'll sign off. We'll call it a night. But let's take a look at the total holders. So we'll need to make another field here. So let's say the count of holders. We'll use 100,000 as our mark here, and we'll just make a graph of this stuff. So let's see. And I have a lot more stuff here that I was looking at. I think looking at the average over time, we'll make this graph, then we'll do the average graph, then we'll call it a night. So here's the date. Let's take a look at 100,000, and let's graph these together. Okay, so this is now chain agnostic. So this is among all of the chains, the count of holders that have over 100,000. And here we can see, so this is not whales, this is 100,000, not 100 million in this case. What we're seeing is adoption of the project. And we can see that is pretty closely coupled with the price of the coin, right? So the price kind of tanked here. It lost like 20% of its value, and the number of holders suddenly exploded for a little bit. Not really sure why that happened, but it did. The count of holders jumped right here. The count of holders was over 100,000. I'm sorry, jumped right here. So we went from 45,500-ish to 45,025-ish to 45,250-ish. So we gained about 200-ish, 225 holders when this price dropped here. So the point is, the project is definitely growing. This is a representation of how the project is growing. If we ignore the chains, and we just say across all chains, and we take into account dust, this is how the project has grown in the past month. It's grown by, 200 and something users, and that's like real growth. That's, dropped on Ethereum. We saw that drop in CoinMarketCap or wherever that shows up, but ultimately the Binance Smart Chain really covered the spread on that. So it really proves me wrong. I was concerned about that. I think there is still some concern about the Binance Smart Chain thing. It does kind of break the tokenomics in a way, but the kind of proof is in the pudding here. It's growing the project, so that's great news. Okay, so finally, just for the hell of it, I know we're running long. It's late. If you guys need to go to sleep, I understand this. There will be a recording. Like I said before, the spreadsheet we're making here will be in the notes after the stream here, but let's take finally a look at the average. So we'll use 100,000 as our marker here again. Let's go here and here, and we'll make a scatter chart. Put it over here somewhere. And have I fucked something up? I don't think so. So the average amount held. So this is the average amount held by holders. Now, again, we saw a huge drop in whales. Those were holders with over 100 million Hoge in their wallets. And we can see that here. How do I duplicate? What the fuck? Something's weird there. Let's delete those. Now it's saving again. But okay, so what we're seeing here is that drop in whales. So this is, let's put some commas in this scale. So this is 45 million. So the average among holders with over 100,000 was 45 million, and that's dropped to 21 million or something, and that is good. That is not a bad thing. We want this, especially considering that the number of holders has grown. The number's grown, and at the same time, those new holders, generally speaking, it's safe to say, have not bought in such a way that they're just buying in, bots buying in as whales that intend to swing trade. I think that these two graphs are the operative sort of graphs of this whole entire discussion. Is, we see that the project again has grown. At the same time, the average amount of Hoge in those wallets has declined. It's great news. That means the early purchasers who may still have 100 billion, whatever the fuck, giant number of Hoge, are leaving, and that's good. They're not returning. At least they're not returning within the span of a month. So, we'll keep an eye on this, pay attention to it a little bit going forward, but I really think that's encouraging for the project at large. All right. I will sit here for a second, see if anybody has any questions or anything they want to see. But again, I'll probably clean up these charts a little bit, start throwing them into Telegram and Discord just to pump people up a little bit. But this whole thing will be in a Google Drive link on the YouTube. So I think there's like a 30-second lag or so. So I'll give another 30 seconds to a minute or so. Questions, comments, things you'd like to see. And then I'll stop the stream. Thanks for sticking around for the whole hour and probably 20-minute stream.